Chapter 3. The Old Man, His House, and His Roommate. Animals tend to be the most sensitive to the supernatural. They are usually the first family members to detect a haunting, followed by the kids, the wife, and the husband, in that order. J.L. Bryan, from his book Maze of Souls, or her book, I don't know who J.L. Bryan is, it's just a good quote. The house was old and had a slight odor of must. However, it was apparent some care had recently been taken to make it appear more comfortable. The walls had been repainted in eggshell white, and the floors were a newer wood covered in a variety of carpets. Emerald and scarlet curtains alternated over windows. Immediately to Ethan's right was a small door that opened into a little hallway. Beside it was a set of double doors. These were closed. Directly inside the house was a medium-sized living room with a lamp, a gas stove in the left west corner. That had an exhaust pipe extending through the wall to the outside. A couch near that, and a flat-screen television about 4 feet wide on a cabinet in the center of the room. No. The house had a floor plan similar to a large plus sign in the center of a square, and the television was in the corner of the plus sign facing the living room fireplace in the square's far corner. There was an easy chair adjacent to the couch across the fireplace, and the chair had a comfortable-looking matching footstool. Beside it was a table for gloves and stocking caps, under which the landlord, Carl, apparently kept his boots. Okay, there's no boots there. Carl said, "This way," and walked through the open door to Ethan's right. Ethan followed. It led through a very small entryway into a tiny room about 100 square feet that had sliding doors with a view on the sloping dirt alley up which Ethan had trudged, and gray curtains for privacy. There was a coffee table ahead of a futon couch and a lamp on the far wall. The wall to Ethan's immediate left was bare and sudden. To the right of where the small hall came into the room, a closet with accordion-style doors filled out the back wall. "The room," said Carl. "The couch is the bed. You have outside access. You can lock your inside door." He gestured behind him. "It's cozy," Ethan replied. Though it was a bit larger than his most recent California lodging, it rather reminded him of a dorm room for one student. Really, it was more than he could have hoped for, provided the price were right. "I'll show you the bathroom and the kitchen," said Carl, and quickly turned back through the small hallway and its little door. Ethan followed, glancing at the set of double doors beside what would be his own. They had windows, but the windows were stained glass and opaque. You could tell only one of the doors was actually used. The other had a bolt driven into a socket in the wood floor. It was the door on the far side of the two from Ethan's room that was apparently in use. Reflexively, he muttered, "What's here?" Carl stopped, turned, looked Ethan in the eye. Carl's eyes were dark and blue. Ethan's were soft and brown. Carl said, "My room. We share a wall. It is locked. You aren't allowed. This way." He turned the way he had been going, and Ethan followed. A short wall with a doorway entered into a small kitchen. To Ethan's immediate right was a little nook with a washer and dryer stacked atop one another. Carl said, "Laundry," then pointed outside the washer and dryer to a white refrigerator and said, "Fridge." There was another door on the other side of the fridge which was open. Carl motioned vaguely. "My office. Maybe we share." Then he motioned to another open door at the right angle to the office entry. "Bathroom." Said bathroom appeared to have been added to the house after the building's initial construction and was about 5 feet wide by 10 long. There was a toilet and a curtain at the far end, which Ethan saw was hiding a cat box. At the other end was an old bathtub and a shower head with another curtain. Carl said, "Hot water lasts 10 minutes. Turn on both taps. Wait till it warms. Jump in. Slowly turn off the far tap as the water cools. It is hot, but not long." Carl left the bathroom and returned to the kitchen, where there was a double sink and a small but sturdy wooden table capable of comfortably seating four. The table had a fine view to a window looking out over the deck, which boasted a vista of mountainous forested beauty that was Trail, South Dakota. Beside the window was an additional door to the covered deck with green columns. The cabinets in the kitchen were painted the same blue as the home's exterior and had white trim. Carl stood behind a chair at the kitchen table and rested his hands on its back, said, "Dishes you can use. Wash and replace when done. Rent is $450 a month plus a $450 deposit. I will provide copies of my lease agreement. You sign both, we keep one each. You pay in cash the first of every month. You have cash? Move in tonight." Ethan blinked and felt his mouth go dry, then came to himself and said, "I've got a night paid for at a hotel already, but I've only got a few bags, a computer, some odds and ends, an old DVD sleeve I still keep around for some reason." "There is a DVD player," Carl said. "Oh, wow. Well, hey," Ethan swallowed. "So, can I move in tomorrow and look over this agreement tonight? I also need to get cash out of my bank somewhere, unless you'd like a debit card. Oh, also, is there internet?" "Cash only. I have internet. There is VPN. Do you know what VPN is?" "I know what a VPN is. I'm surprised you do, actually." "Because I am old. I do not know what a virtual private network is." "Of course I know. It makes it hard for people to see you online." "Yeah, I'm into that. Is it fast?" "No. It is adequate." Ethan puffed air through his lips. He could work with adequate. He had been prepared to work with nothing, knowing there was an IoT, that's Internet of Things, cloud of the edge computing variety in a town this size anyhow. He could leech off existing Wi-Fi and tap into that regardless whether this place had any web access. He'd been an expert rather, at using the web endlessly and not paying a dime in San Francisco. Okay, I guess. Yeah, it's surprisingly modern inside. From the outside, I didn't know what I was getting into. Built in 1878. One of the first, Carl replied. "I don't doubt that." Suddenly, needles of fire assaulted Ethan's egg. He made a high-pitched noise and jumped back from the kitchen table. A long-haired black cat had attacked his leg. Ethan couldn't tell if it was playing or actually making a show of force, but he'd have blood under his pants. Before he could smack the cat, it ran off at the speed of light and disappeared through a cat door painted to look like a square stained glass in the double doors of Carl's bedroom. "That is our other roommate, Stinky. Sorry, Slinky. Like the toy. Slinky has social problems. You are afraid of cats. He just startled me. She looks like toothless." "Oh no, she has teeth. Did you not feel them in your leg?" "I mean from the movie." "What movie?" "How to Train Your Dragon." "I do not watch movies." "Then what's that TV out there for?" Carl blinked. "It is also for my lodger." "Of course." "You got a DVD player for your lodger too?" "Of course." After a moment, Carl said, "I do watch some movies." "Okay." This made Ethan feel a little awkward, though he couldn't quite say why. He shrugged it off. "Okay, then what time is good for me to come by tomorrow?" "Don't be later than noon," Carl replied. "It's a deal." Ethan extended his hand. Carl looked at it a moment, then took it briefly before grimacing and releasing his grip. Ethan's handshake was very weak. Ethan also noticed the change in energy after the handshake and found himself scratching the back of his bleach blonde head, looking at the ground, saying, "Okay then, I'll see you tomorrow then," before turning, walking to his shoes, and sliding into them as quickly as he could. "Don't forget the lease agreement," Carl said, following with the printed contract. "Oh yeah, thank you," said Ethan, and quickly folded it into a pocket within his jacket. Throughout the whole exchange, Carl had been very neutral in his emotions. Ethan couldn't tell if it was sinister or what, but it was strange. He'd almost smiled when talking about the cat. Not really. It had only been in his eyes. Ethan drove carefully back to the cheap hotel he'd found in Livestone. The little snowstorm had passed, only leaving an inch or two of powder along the roadway. Once back at his room, Ethan took a good look at the lease agreement. To whom it may concern, this is a lease agreement between Carl Marlborough and blank, in parentheses, please print name. Rent, including utilities, is $450 US non-negotiable, due the first of every month, including New Year's. You will be sharing with myself and Slinky. Do not let the cat outside. Do not let her in your room overnight. Lodger must supply soap, shampoo, and meals. Lease amount includes all utilities. Your deposit is $450 US for a sum of $900 US at the time this is signed. You will be provided a key that must be returned upon cessation of this agreement. This agreement is for a 6-month minimum lease with deposit refundable upon exit. Lodger must provide a minimum of 2 weeks' notice prior exit and pay rent accordingly as prorated at a prorated cost of $225 US. If notification comes at the end of the month, please keep noise at reasonable levels. Parking is located up the hill and down the hill. Up the hill is better. Visitors are allowed but may be rejected at landlord's discretion. The same goes for lodger pets. Lodger must agree not to enter landlord's room under any circumstances for any reason ever. Lodger signature, landlord signature, date. Ethan made a few habitual clicking noises to himself and signed the document, leaving the date and landlord areas blank. Marlborough. You really named Carl Marlborough. He chuckled. That's hilarious. If you only knew what a deal this is, Marlborough man. I don't know. It was a hell of a battle just to find the place. He read over the agreement again and muttered some more to himself. Why are you so scared of letting anybody in your room? What are you, a teenager? That's funny about the cat. He refolded the document and put it back in his jacket, then hung that up and packed the essentials. The next day, Ethan withdrew $2,700 in 20s from his bank and finished signing the lease with Carl. As Ethan had suspected, the older man was quite pleased about the 20s. He didn't smile, but he agreed to accepting all 6 months' rent up front with the deposit readily enough. Ethan played the move for leverage, saying, so I'm going to have to do a lot of tech work, and I might clog up your internet, but I have a workaround, and I'm usually pretty quiet, so you don't mind if I'm up all night. Just keep the cat out of your room and do not enter my room. Keep the noise low, but I see you will not be noisy. Okay then. And that day, Ethan moved in. It took all of 20 minutes.